Welcome everyone to our Change Your Perspective, a Mental Remix webinar today. It's part of our full series for Change to Chill program through Allina Health. My name is Jana Netterfield and I'm a Community Health Program Coordinator for Allina Health, and I have been with Allina for about 10 years and have been with Change to Chill program since its inception. And today, myself and my co-facilitator, Stacy, are going to walk you through some helpful, hopefully, and useful hands-on tips on how to adjust your perspective and maybe helping other people in your life, maybe teens, adults, even kids, look at things a little bit differently. So I will let Stacy introduce herself.
Hello, just like Jana said, my name is Stacy Bestinen, and I've been with Allina Health for about 20 years, and I am a wellness coordinator. I've been with Change to Chill since its inception, and my whole goal is to really work with people and empower them to live their best life in all areas of wellness.
Thank you, Stacy. So just like I said, today we are going to take a look at what it means to mentally remix your attitude and how you view things. I'm sure majority of you have heard the saying of, well, if you were in their shoes, what would you do? What would you say? Or put yourself in somebody else's shoes, or think outside the box. So today we're actually, instead of just saying that, we're also going to give you some very hands-on tips on how to do that. And we might even practice a little bit together. So if you're new to mindfulness and if you're new to being a mindfulness practitioner, please don't be afraid. We're not going to do anything scary. We're going to start with very simple mindfulness practices, and we'll have some experiential learning together as well. So our objectives for today is to identify some strategies to changing your perspective, recognizing the difference between actual and perceived state of things. Believe it or not, sometimes we are not able to do that. And then, just like I said, we're going to practice some activities and we'll have some experiential learning as well. So to get us started, we're just going to take a look at what it means to mentally remix things for yourself. We're going to play a short video, and our friend Molly McShane is going to walk us through the concept of mental remix, and a couple of our teens who you're going to see in the video are going to give us some hands-on examples.
Hi, I'm Allina.
And I'm Moises.
Have you ever noticed two people can experience the same situation in totally different ways? Like two people can watch a movie and come out with different interpretations of what happened.
That was such a good movie. So romantic. They were so in love.
What? I didn't even think they liked each other.
Really?
Yeah.
The reason this happens is because we each come equipped with different maps. Maps are how we view the world, and they're based off of beliefs, attitudes, physiology, experiences we've had, and decisions we've made. So maybe Moises and I had different opinions about the movie because of the life experiences we've each had that have shaped our views.
However, what we experience isn't the reality of the situation. You see, when we experience an event, we often take it in and remix it in our brains. So our memory of events aren't exact records of what happened, but rather an interpretation of what happened.
Exactly. Let's head over to the other side to learn more about mental remix. We've brought in an expert from Allina Health to explain this concept in more detail. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Molly.
Hi, guys. I'm so happy to be here. So like you said, Allina, our maps really influence how we experience events. So when we have an event, that can be something that happens at home, at school, at the movies. It can be something that's completely external from ourselves. Once we have that event, we filter that in our mind, and we have different filters like our language, what we say about that event, our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, and our previous life experiences. And once we filter all of that information, it becomes a memory, or how we remember that event. And once we have that memory, depending on how we're feeling both physically and mentally, that determines how we respond, or our behavior responds to that event. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so. So what we perceive influences how we react, but what we perceive isn't always the reality of the situation.
Exactly. So for instance, let's say you're having a bad day and you take the wrong exit on the freeway, you might have a much different response to that than if you woke up and you're having a good day. The good news is we can expand our maps so that when we have more experiences and more knowledge, we can respond to those events in a different way. Let's take a look at some real-life examples and see how our map can influence our outcome.
Seriously? I seriously got an F on this? Colleges are never gonna let me in with this. I'm not even gonna pass this class. I'm so stupid. Ugh, my life is over.
All right, so let's take a look at how your reaction to this situation could be different if you use mental remix.
Oh, wow. I got an F on this test. I know that I know this stuff. I just think I need to study harder next time. And I think I can ask the teacher if there's some extra credit that I can do. It'll only get better from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you can see, you can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to those things. So Nicolina, you could use that F as a way to beat yourself up and call yourself stupid, or you can use it so you do better on the next test.
Hey, Nicolina, what's up?
How come you didn't come to my match yesterday like you promised? Do you even care?
Oh.
What, were you with your more important friends or something? You guys always let me down.
Why do you always overreact about everything?
Ugh.
So how could you use mental remix in this situation to have a more positive response?
Hey, Nicolina, what's up?
Hey, how come you didn't come to my match yesterday? I thought you said you're gonna be there.
Oh, yeah, I did say I was going to be there. I'm sorry. It's because I had so much to do with my parents and so much homework. I can make it up to you. When's your next match?
We have a match next Friday. You think you could come?
Yeah, I think I can make it. I'll write down my plan so I don't forget.
Awesome. Cool.
Okay.
See you
great.
there.
See you there.
So the misunderstanding that you and Moises had could cause a stressful ending to your friendship, or you could calmly work things out. It all depends on how you see things.
Thanks so much, Molly. So next time you're feeling stressed out, think about what factors may be mixed up in your mind, and then think of a way to remix them.
So the whole phenomenon of mental remix is just something that is really powerful and just really amazing. And I like to use the example of just reading a book. So I have my favorite book is called Gap Creek, and I've read it several different times. And but when I read it, and if I think back in the past of when I read it, it's been in different parts of my life. And every single time I read it, I get something completely different out of it, just feelings and emotions. And that's all because of mental remix. So when we look at the phenomenon of mental remix, it's really the idea that you actually have the power, and you can feel empowered to reframe how you really see the situation and how you're experiencing that feeling. It's a good time to really reflect. And that's all to the brain mapping like Molly was talking about. So how we see the, like how I saw Gap Creek, that book is because of my past experiences. And then as I was building on more experiences, then I'd read it again, and then that would affect how I felt about the book again. So brain mapping is just amazing. And our brains are always getting new and different segues and memories and experiences. So how we see the world can definitely change. And then we have to bring in that intent. Like if you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off, how you intent to see that person. Is it a positive intent or negative intent? You never know what's going on in that person's life in that day. So you can respond to that negatively or positively. Most of the time I just say, oh my gosh, I'm glad they got ahead of me because they might have to go to the hospital, and that just helps make my day go smoothly, and hopefully they get to where they need to go on time. And then it also helps with your perspective and how you see others versus yourself, and really what you can bring to that situation. So very powerful. And just like Molly had mentioned, we all experience stress. So the real takeaway is how we deal with and how we respond with that to that stress makes a difference in our overall perspective. So very powerful.
So I would have to say that the concept of mental remix is very easy to talk about and very difficult to actually implement and practice on a daily basis. And, let's just be honest with ourselves. It's when somebody else tells us, well, take a look at this from a different angle, or step outside the box and envision things differently, or maybe it's not what you think it is. It's very tough to actually get out of that moment in time and sort of force your inner being to really look at things differently, or accept the fact that perhaps what you're seeing is not what it really is. So that is why we start talking about the concept of mindfulness, and practicing mindfulness in that very moment of when you need a change of perspective, or perhaps looking for a different way of looking at things, is very important. So bringing that awareness to really present moment and acknowledging and accepting your thoughts about whatever it is that's going on, and feelings and sensations in your body, and being fully completely present to recognize what's real and what's not, is what really where that mental remix, or ability to view things in a different light, starts. It doesn't start with a forceful intention to, okay, well, somebody said it looks different than what I see it as, so let me just force myself into envisioning that it's really not what I think it is. It starts with recognizing that, man, I just see it one way, and this is how I feel about it, and this situation is exactly what it is in my mind right now, and perhaps, just perhaps, there's a different way of looking at the situation. So now we have a little bit of chat time. Please use your chat function to maybe reflect on today and share maybe what happened so far today that's affecting your perception of reality. I have this example, and I will go ahead and start. And it's perhaps not about today, but it's something that I think about often. And this is when I need mental remix and an ability to change and shift my perspective. I think about this example. It's very vivid in my mind. About a year ago, I had to speak at a conference, and it was a fairly large conference with a large group of people. And at that time, I was pregnant with my third child as a little boy, and I was far enough along where, and those of you ladies who been in a similar situation probably laugh right now, I was at the point where I had probably one and only shirt that would fit, that was appropriate for that type of event. So as I was getting ready in the morning, my oldest son, who is now 4 and at that time was a little over 3 years old, was very excited that mommy is dressing up and going to some fancy event in his mind. And I was just ecstatic that that shirt fit. So I put it on, I put on my jacket and was all ready to go. And my little one ran up to me with his palms covered in peanut butter and jelly. Leftovers of his breakfast, and he just wanted to tell me how much he loves me and how much he is proud of me, and that I'm going to do so very well today at this conference. By doing so, he left some very visible marks on my shirt from peanut butter and jelly, and I was mortified, because I was going to go and speak at that conference. So I tried really, really hard to wipe it, and then I put some water on it, but all I did really is just kind of smother it around, and it was very visible that my shirt is dirty. Even if I had time to change, which I did not, I also did not have any other shirt that I could possibly wear that could possibly fit my growing body. So I proceeded to go to the conference thinking to myself, man, this is just not going to go well. My shirt is dirty, my attitude sucks. I just, this is just bizarre. And what am I going to do? And everybody's going to think that I just, I'm a mess. I have a dirty shirt on. So I had about a 45-minute drive to my location. And by the time I got there, my perception of reality and my perspective as to what my whole shirt situation is all about completely changed. Because what I was thinking about is my son, who loves me unconditionally. So I could look at my shirt and say, hey, you know what? My day started not so well. My shirt is dirty. It barely fits. And this conference presentation is not going to go really well. Or I could choose to look at my shirt and say, it's dirty and somebody loves me. Somebody loves me so unconditionally, so wholeheartedly, with such pure intention and such adoration. Somebody loves me. So That said, I would love to know, what is your mood today? How did your perception change today based on good, bad, indifferent, something that happened yet today? Stacy, do we have anything in the chat?
Not right now. Not right now, we don't. But I know that this topic and, the whole thought of mental remix definitely gives people some reflection time, and sometimes needs that reflection time,
Mhm.
because it's such an interesting concept.
Yeah, for sure. So I want you to continue thinking as we go through presentation today. I want you to continue thinking about what generally affects your perception of reality. Do bad things that happen, or perceived bad things that happen in the morning, do they affect the rest of your day? Or when you wake up in the morning, what is the intention for the day? Does that really matter? And what do you do with that? What do you do with that knowledge? What do you do with that information? So the research really shows, and there's a lot of robust research around positive psychology and the work of Martin Seligman. Some of you probably have heard and or read his book called Flourish, and we will send some links and some information around the research on positive psychology after we're done with our presentation today. But as humans, we're actually hardwired for negativity. So sometimes when people tell you, well, why are you so negative about this? I will tell you that it's not necessarily all your fault, and it's not just all in your head. We are not wired that way. Focusing on positive and gaining that perspective is not natural to us. It's not easy. It takes conscious effort, and noticing positivity, noticing positive things in your life it's actually really difficult. And the exercise of Martin Seligman's concept was initially called 3 blessings. We call it 3 good things. It's about noticing the good. It's about noticing the good every single day, regardless of your circumstance otherwise. You might be in a really, really bad place today, and noticing those 3 good things is absolutely important. At the end of every day, before you go to bed, you think about, what are those positive things that happened to me today. They can be small, they can be big, whatever they are. So I encourage you to take a look at that research. But again, what we're doing today is a concerted effort to actually focus on the positive, and I commend you all for being here with us today.
Well, yeah, I mean, that research is just amazing and a wonderful point. And to kind of go back to that chat question, we did get quite a few things. And as I'm noticing, people are putting in maybe some really hard things, but then turning it into a very positive. And so one was, getting a restful night's sleep is making a good day. And I'm in a really good mood because of that. And then another one says that my husband's uncle died today and I'm blessed to be alive. So definitely taking a really hard thing that has happened and then turning it into a blessing to just be grateful to be alive. And then the third one is enjoy the crazy kids today because the oldest will be leaving in 2 years. So yeah, kind of putting all of that into perspective and mentally remixing it in our brain so that we're able to really focus on today and be mindful of today to enjoy those moments. And then another one is being extremely busy at work means that I'm useful and helpful. So really mental remixing that into finding your purpose and being fully there and doing a good job. So
I absolutely love that one. I will steal it from whoever shared this with us. Thank you so much. That is a really good one.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And it definitely helps even to put a variety of ideas into perspective, which is great. And so another way to kind of look at it is to really create that state that you want, kind of feeling empowered to kind of look at how our brains work. And so I really give you an opportunity to reflect on this and just for a couple of seconds. If you want to close your eyes, you can, but maybe a couple words or kind of gain a picture in your head of what stress looks like in your mind. Just really kind of think of that, use your creativity and what does that stress look like in your mind? And then flip it over to the other side and what is the image of stress-free? So this is something that you can definitely do. We do this with our students in classrooms all the time, and it's kind of amazing what we get and what we see out of that creativity. And oftentimes stress looks like squiggly lines and just really busy, and then the image is stress-free. Sometimes students won't put anything because it's just kind of this calm, and their mind is just free to just be. So it's a good creative thing to do is to what does that really look like in your mind? And if you don't have an image of stress-free that you can think of, it's a great opportunity to feel empowered to kind of reflect on that and think that over. We have a variety of resources on the website. This first worksheet is actually a pretty good one because it looks at when you were little, what stressed you out and how did you deal with that stress? And then you can look at right now what stresses you out now and how do you deal with that? And then what do you think stress will be like when in 10, 20 years? And how do you think you'll deal with it at that moment? And so what that gives your mind a chance to know that stressors come and go, and how we deal with it is at the time. And so just know that stress comes and goes, sensations come and go, feelings come and go, and it's a really empowering tool to be able to kind of reflect on that. And then there's that create the state you want worksheet that we just did.
So here is a couple of questions and things to reflect on. Are you really seeing what you're seeing when you are looking at the situation? So this is about getting perspective and really understanding what those steps are to seeing the situation for what it is. It works beautifully with adults, it works beautifully with teenagers, and some parts of what we're going to talk about also works beautifully with kids, maybe adapted a little bit. So your first step is acknowledge your feelings about the situation without judgment. We tend to judge every single feeling that we have. And most of the time when we're upset about something or sad or whatever that situational feeling is, we tend to feel embarrassed about it, or we tend to feel angry about, well, why am I so upset about it? Have you ever been in a situation where something is going on and you're like, why do I even care? I shouldn't care, but I care. So this is kind of that judgmental feeling. You have to step back and just acknowledge how you're feeling and just say, okay, well, I feel really angry. And then determine what is real. And what is your perception of reality? We're going to walk through all of these steps together. So you have a couple of examples and some tools to actually walk yourself or the teens or adults you're working with through some of these steps as well. So what is real and what is not? Is what I'm seeing, is it really real or I'm making it up? So that is really important, because a lot of times what we do is we make something out of nothing, and all of us do it, and all of us do it very well. So we'll talk about how to change that. And one of the things we encourage you to do is seeking that objective outlook, somebody who is not involved in the situation, or somebody who is not that doesn't perhaps have strong feelings one way or the other, and they can give you maybe a little bit more of a perspective. Finding context and also choosing your response, which is the last step. So we're gonna dissect those and go through them one by one to give you additional tools and activities to do related to all of these steps. So Stacy's gonna walk us through this getting perspective activity, and just want you to be open-minded and think about how maybe you view reality in relation to getting perspective and going through that mental remix activity.
Yeah, so just as even when the video said, if we all walked into a movie today, let's say there's 40 people on the call, we would walk out, even though it's the same movie, we would walk out seeing 40 different movies, even if it was the same movie. So it's kind of an interesting phenomenon. So this get your perspective activity is kind of cool too, because you'll see, depending on your past experience, how you answer them. So the first question is your friend tells you they just bought an expensive car. So go ahead and put in the chat, like, how much did they pay did they pay for the car? So when you're thinking of what does expensive mean to you? So go ahead and put a few in. I'll get the chats, Jana. So we have like, go ahead.
So like 40,000 or 50,000.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we know that when we do this with kids or adults, it's all over the board. So some people will say like $5,000. Some people will say $1 million. So it all depends on your perspective. So it's actually really cool. And
Somebody
then
said $85,000. So it's very different, 30,000. So, you know, if you have a teenager, to them buying a $10,000 car is probably a gigantic undertaking. So when you think about that, it's very different.
yeah, definitely. So let's go with the last one. There's one with how long will the mechanic take the mechanic to fix your car? If they say a while. And so we definitely get a lot of different response with this one as well. Somebody mentioned 3 days, somebody mentions 2 weeks. So you can see the difference between 3 days and 2 weeks. It's definitely different. And then the next one is you're waiting in line at a concession stand and you think this line is too long. How many people are ahead of you? What do you think for that one? 15 people, 12 people, 5. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Like some people might say only one person in front of them. Maybe it could be 10 people and they could say it's too long. It definitely could depend on if what you're waiting for or why you're at the concession stand. Are you, is it halftime and you need to get back to the game? Is it, you know, you need to get some water for something. And so it all depends on what the experience that you're going through at the time too. And the last one is your classmate or your coworker tells you they'll finish their portion of a project soon. So when will they finish it? What does soon mean to you? Soon. So we have 2 days, 1 day, 2 days, yep, end of the day. So yeah, just those triggering words like how expensive, how long, a while, the line is too long, soon. All those words are so different to different people. So when we get perspective and we understand that everyone thinks differently for these words, then we can relate to other people that much better when we know that we all come to the table with different experiences and different perspectives. So it's a really cool thing to think about.
And the challenge of it is thinking about how circumstances or additional circumstances may change your perspective. So if you're standing in that concession line at the concert, or at the park or whatever, and you have friends with, and they're standing in line with you and you chit-chatting, you haven't seen each other in a while, that line goes so fast, you almost feel like you would want to stand in it longer so that you have that time to converse more. So it really is the matter of, you know, what else plays into the situation, right? So that's very important to think about.
Okay, well, so I am going to do a really quick mental remix mindfulness challenge for you. So what I want you to do is put your feet flat on the floor if you have a chance and just settle into your chair. If you want to close your eyes, go ahead. And we are just going to be watching our breath with a lot of vigilance right now. So sit comfortably with your back upright but not rigid. And sit lightly and easily with a sense of dignity and mental alertness. And just simply begin resting awake and present to what is going on around you and resting in it all. And you may notice thoughts, sounds, or sensations in the body. Just take a moment to just notice. Now gently move your attention to the breath itself, taking a big, deep breath, filling your belly and your lungs, and exhaling fully. And just becoming aware of the breath as it comes into your body and as you're breathing out. Notice with each breath, and take a moment to just think about it with new, unfound curiosity. After all, each breath is brand new. You've never taken this one before. Maybe you can notice the temperature of the air as it enters your nose, the temperature of the air as it leaves your body. There's no need to judge how you are doing or if you're doing it right. Just watch the breath ebb and flow like the waves of the sea. And just living one breath at a time. And just ride the wave of the breath moment by moment, breathing in and breathing out. If you notice a thought come in, just notice it without judgment and bring your mind back to focusing on the breath. And just breathe normally and naturally without changing your breath in any way. Just be aware of the breath as it comes and goes. Take one more deep breath in. And as you exhale, go ahead and wiggle your fingers and your toes, bringing yourself back to the chair beneath you, opening your eyes if they're closed. And just take a moment to extend yourself some gratitude for taking this time to be present in your life in this moment. Thank you for doing that mindfulness experiments with me.
Thank you, Stacy. So in many cases, when you need a change in perspective, you really just need to stop and take a breath and allow yourself to go through the steps of just remixing what happened and what your feelings are and how you're looking at the situation. So we're going to go through those steps that we mentioned already, those 5 steps, and we're sort of going to dissect them a little bit. So acknowledge your feelings without judgment. We talked a little bit about it. So what contributed to your initial response? When something happens situationally, fear, maybe you're afraid, you know, one of the things that we're dealing with right now is our situation with COVID. You know, you start coughing or you start feeling under the weather. It happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I actually had a strep throat. And you know, you have that frustration and fear of what if I'm sick? What if I'm sick with COVID? I'm gonna have to be in isolation, or the fear of maybe infecting somebody else who is immunocompromised in your family. You know, all these things just flood you. Past events, you know, when you were sick before, how did that go for you? You know, my life circumstances is I have a family with some immunocompromised folks that live in my household. And I think about all these things that play into that one situation. The environment you grew up in, you know, were you taken care of when you were sick, or did you have to take care of yourself? Was there a caregiver? You know, formed habits have a lot to do with your response as well. And this is true to any situation. Your initial response is only as good as what you know and the experiences you've been through. And then think about that. How did your reaction make you feel? What did that look like? Did you feel fearful right away? Did you feel embarrassed because you reacted the way you did? Sometimes, you know, we have those snapping reactions when something happens and we just get really angry and we sort of say things we don't mean. And then we feel like, man, I really should not have said that. So the next thing to think about, being non-judgmental towards yourself, is practicing that self-kindness. So giving yourself some grace, easier said than done. Some people are naturally more prone to being able to do that easily. And some folks, such as myself, that doesn't come easy to us. So you have to practice it every day. Think about the initial response to whatever it is that happened to you, and think about how to step back and say, man, I got so angry. And give yourself forgiveness, give yourself some grace and say, well, I got angry and that's okay. It's hard to do, but that's one of the steps towards shifting that perspective. So the next step we talked about is determining what is real and what is just your perception of reality. And that is a tough one. This is particularly interesting to practice with kids and teenagers. If you have teens, you probably know what I'm talking about, or if you work with teens or have any connection to teens, what they see and what the reality is a lot of times are two completely different things. And some of that has to do with the brain development. I would love to say that improves or goes away as we grow into our adulthood, but the reality of it is we still sometimes don't differentiate between reality and our perception. So how do you stay grounded? What are the things you can do? Step outside of yourself and see situation from a completely different angle. That's where that mindfulness and maybe that fresh breath you just need to take, and just maybe even physically remove yourself from wherever environment you're in, and just think about what really happened. Is there something I'm not seeing? You have to be really kind with yourself, but also really honest with yourself. And then try to evaluate sheer facts, not your feelings. As humans, we're prone to looking at our feelings and basing our perception of reality or alternative reality on those feelings. I feel mad about it, hence I am entitled to be mad because what happened was wrong. So you're basing that reality or perception of reality that something that happened was wrong or not right or unjust based on your feeling. What are the facts? Was it really unjust? So my daughter shared this with me. She is a teen and she works at one of the retail stores here in a Twin Cities area. And she came to me about a week ago and she said, Mom, I was working at the service desk and I had this customer who came back and wanted to return something, but that was not from our store. The label was from a different store. And when I pointed that out to the customer and told him that I'm not able to take the product back, he got extremely upset and extremely mad. And I don't understand that. How can you not see that the reality of the situation is that this is not our product, we can't take it back? So sometimes, we get rightly so upset because we want something so bad, or something is right there into our face, but that's all we see. We base our reaction on our feelings. If we step back and realistically look at the situation, we see sometimes we might be in the wrong, or our perception might change based on the facts. Become an observer versus negative storyteller. So a prime example of that in a workplace is reactions of the people perhaps that we report to. Observer would say, so my boss walks into the office and slams the door, and she's obviously upset. Something is going on. The observer would step back, and with that part of your brain that is very logical and very observant, would say, wow, something is going on in her life today. Maybe I'll give her some space and check in later and just make sure she's okay. The negative storyteller part of your brain will jump right into conclusions and say, well, she's mad, I've done something wrong, it's time to pack my bags, I'm definitely fired. Does that resonate with anyone? We see that all the time within ourselves. We see it very exacerbated in our teens because this is a tendency, and with the brain development, they're not quite there yet to prevent that spiral from happening. But that is very real. So the next step is seeking that objective outlook. Seek a feedback from non-involved parties, somebody who has nothing to do with the situation. Try to be as objective as you can in describing what happened, or maybe they saw what happened and they can give you a different perspective. Seek feedback from somebody very different than you. In my professional life, I started doing that probably within the last year or so. Somebody that sometimes maybe I would disagree with, or somebody I feel is very different from me in how they operate, who they are, how they conduct business, or what their professional habits are as far as punctuality, or just how they work. I would go to that person and seek that objective perspective, because sometimes that is exactly what we need. Somebody who thinks very differently to help us understand what is really going on. If you can't seek feedback, imagine. That mindfulness is really important. So use that creativity of your brain. Use your mom, best friend, boss, your child. Imagine somebody and how they would interpret the situation. This is one of the positive psychology suggestions as well. It's from the research. It stems from that research where we recommend that you would imagine your child or a child in your life that you know, and what would they say about this? Would that even matter to them? Would that, how would they interpret the situation? And sometimes you would come to a very interesting conclusions based on logic, very simplistic logic sometimes of a child. And then finding context, that one is tough. Assuming best and positive intention sometimes is different way of thinking. So assumptions eliminate curiosity. So what that really means is, as soon as you assume you know what you know, you sort of get rid of that curious part of yourself that wants to learn more. If you see a situation and you judge it before you learn what context this is happening in, that curiosity part of you is gone. And that is what's going to lead you to a perception versus reality. Always assume positive intent. This is tough. I talk to my teen daughter about this all the time. I don't think anybody is out to get us or hunt us down. Sometimes she tends to think that that's the case. And we have to have constant conversation about, people want to help, people want to assist. Maybe it doesn't translate very well, but that's the case. Assume that they're positive. Assume that they want to do good, and then gain that perspective that way. The example that I always think about, and it's also very vivid in my mind, is also my daughter, who is now 16. When she was about 6, and I was working long hours at my previous job. I came home one day and she was upstairs in her room for about 2 hours quiet. And if you have a 6-year-old or have been exposed to a 6-year-old, something is up, right? If they don't show their face for 2 hours. So I go upstairs to take a look at what's going on, and I walk into the room, and what I see is bubbles on the floor, soap bubbles, and carpet completely covered in probably an inch or two of water. If you're a parent, you probably know what your reaction would be. I just about flew off the handle. I just didn't even know what to say to that. I was like, what is happening here? What is going on? My reaction, wasn't my proudest moment as a mother, I would tell you this, but my reaction was, I was angry. My goodness, now I have to clean up this mess. What was she thinking? And then I stopped myself and I was like, well, I gotta understand like what's going on. So I looked at her and I said, what happened? What are you doing? And I can remember to this day, she looked at me and she said, Mom, you always come home so tired and you always tell me how much you have going on. And I just really wanted to help. So I decided to wash the floor. Mic drop, right? So suddenly your perception, my perception, I felt so guilty in that moment. Like, oh my goodness. Yes, the carpet is wrecked and we had to replace it. Yes, there's soap bubbles everywhere for me to clean up, but I did not assume the positive intent. All I could think about, she wanted to wreck the carpet. At 6 years old, she threw the soap down there just to make me mad. How wrong was I? Assume positive intent. Seek more information to understand the big picture. Where are you at? Be quick to listen and slow to judge yourself and others, right? And then choosing your response and focusing on the good is always something you do. It's something that is your choice. Reframe the narrative. Choose what you focus on. Do you focus on positive or do you focus on negative? This is up to you to choose your response. Elevate gratitude. So even in the worst of a circumstance, what is good? Hard to think about it, but it rings true. So envision that current or past difficult situation you might be dealing with. What tools can you use to reframe your perception? perspective and change the outlook. If you have some thoughts, put them in the chat time while Stacy is walking us through the rest of our slides.
Yeah, so if you want more information on Mental Remix, it's right on our website, Change Your Chill. So feel free to go right there. We have the Mental Remix video and more discussion, and then get more or get some perspective. And then we have a meditation as well. So that's right on our website. Feel free to do that, and then feel free to sign up for our e-newsletter. All you have to do is put your email and subscribe, and you'll get our e-newsletter when it comes out each month. And then we have some upcoming webinars coming up: Finding Focus on November 12th, and then Self-Care for the Soul, which is coming up as well. And then within 24 hours, we will be sending you a survey. So we really want to know what you think and your thoughts, and both good and bad. We definitely look at those to continue to improve our webinars. And then we will post the recording of this underneath our video tab on the website.
And we will also send you the slides from this presentation, so you kind of can maybe revisit some of the steps that we talked about today with our SurveyMonkey and that follow-up email as well. So we are at time. Just wondering if anybody has any questions. We are going to stay on